You should have seen the state of you last night. Honestly, I couldn't believe what you done. Why are you always showing us up this way? You need to get your act together. This just isn't good enough. What's got into you? Do you know you used to be such a good person to be around? They are the type of things that people with addictions will hear. They're the type of things that alcoholics are used to hearing day in, day out their lives. And it's an echo of how they truly feel about themselves. Now, the question is, and should be, what is it that you find in your choice? What is it doing for you? Now, my name's David Landers, and we've created this page, Alcohol Free Future, and we have a centre in the southwest of France. Please check it out. It's opening in July 2025. www.shadowtolightexperience.com, where our philosophy, if there's a better word for it, our utterings would be, what is someone looking for once they've had their safety blanket took away from them? What is a safety blanket? Well, speaking from a personal experience, growing up in an alcoholic household, alcohol creates all the problems, but in this paradoxical, perverse way, looks like it solves all the problems. And for me, the intelligence behind anyone's addiction is so profoundly unique that the data's out there that suggests if people didn't find some kind of comfort in what they were doing at the beginning, we wouldn't have this huge problem with addictions. There's something uniquely brilliant at the beginning that convinces us, that talks to us like a little devil on the shoulder. We are your solution. We are your golden ticket. Think of Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, where he found the golden ticket. He had found the thing, the moment. That, I assure you, is someone who's been traumatized or someone who's grown up where their needs weren't met. When they discover their thing, their behavior, their substance, it is something that's all consumed in their mind. And I will tell you why. Because for the first time in their life, their past and their present get brought together like with a drawbridge of behavior addiction, and it makes sense. They're able to sit within the very person that they've been told they are or they aren't, and for once it's bearable. For once it's allowing them to be just who they feel they really are. Bad news, that doesn't last. And it took me 25 years to realise that, I would say. It took me that amount of time to understand that what I thought was just having a good laugh in my early years, it progressively, with tolerance and with acceptance and with one moment to the next, got worse. And it was only at the moment when I woke up one morning, I had a glass of wine beside my bed and I needed that to get up and out of bed, did I realise I truly had missed the boat of this intelligence. Now, to get your head around all of this, you have to strip yourself back from what's hoodwinking you. You have to strip yourself back from what's misleading you into thinking that you're okay. And that's the choice. That's the choice of behaviour, the choice of substance. And that's where the sneaky little, excuse my French, the bastard comes in, because it will say to you, just one more drink, you're fine. It will say to you, oh, you only drink at weekends. It will say to you, just gamble 50 quid, you've got another 200. It will say to you, what's a bit of porn once a week? It will say to you, oh, This use of scrolling, it's okay. Addiction is there to convince you that you are fine. It is there to try to make your life and your mind and your body more relatable to yourself. Now, what do I mean, your body and your mind? Well, if you think when you are growing up, you are developing this intricate system that we call our physicality, our psychology, all of the elements that make us so beautiful and perfect, they are a system that, in its unique brilliance, is so vulnerable to being dysregulated, and it's so vulnerable to being smashed into pieces but still operating. That's where our operating system module works in our centre. When we are growing up and our needs are unmet, we'll have moments in time where, when our chemicals and our nervous systems and our emotional centres are all meant to be in perfect harmony, they get completely out of whack. And what happens is the survival intelligence in our brain that kept us going through generations and generations and generations just want to keep us surviving. So they adapt in certain ways. With that, if that means processing memories and storing them, even being so traumatic, they do that. If that means not regulating our centres as correctly as we should do, they will do that. But what happens? They need to be expressed some way. Now, it's okay why we're under this familiar dysfunction, but what about when we break out into the world? What about when we meet a partner? What about when we get a job? We still have all of this chaos going on inside us, in our mind and our bodies, and it becomes overwhelming every time there's a trigger, every time there's a reflex. So what happens? We become overwhelmed. We become dysregulated in how we cope with the outside world. Then we go out one night. Then we find whiskey. Then we find wine. Then we find vodka. And then we take a sip. And then we have an evening where, for once in our lives, we're completely able to forget everything we believe we were, who we think we are. All of the self-loathing goes away. All of the you're not interested enough goes away. You're the life and soul of the party. You're able to take the world on. Then you wake up the next day and you think, yes, I found it. I found exactly who I am. All I need is this magic thing that I can go down the corner shop, I can go down the road, it's quite inexpensive, and I can be the person I was destined to be. And what do you think we do? We continue this behaviour, Then little by little by little, the intelligence of the addiction goes, not quite doing it as much now. Need a little bit more. People start noticing. You're like, what do they know? I found my magic answer. This knows everything. This choice I'm making is far superior to any of them. They don't know nothing. And then we take a little bit more, and then we start hiding it. We start taking a little bit at work. We start taking a little bit, when we should be looking after our family, our friends. And all the while, it's still keeping all of this feelings of anxiety, of trauma, of dysregulation, is keeping it at bay. So we're convinced, we're thinking, this is what I've been looking for. What I'm trying to explain here, guys, is the intelligence behind the addiction has to be respected. The intelligence behind the choices we made has to be respected. We don't have to feel like we're broken. We're just an adaptation of our pain. We're just an adaptation of our reality. All we're trying to do is put ourselves out into the world, and hopefully no one will see the real self. It's a pain translation mechanism. It means it makes our pain bearable. It can translate it into a survival mechanism where we don't have to think about how painful our life was growing up. So we all of a sudden think this is wonderful. And there is an intelligence behind that because it's meeting the needs that we didn't have met. That's the beauty of it. That is the beauty of it. There's a trauma response architect that goes on, which it can block traumatic moments in our lives. When we have a memory that's traumatic, we can just go, I'll just have a puff of a joint. I'll just have a slug of beer. It can regulate overwhelming emotional states. So if you think about it, when we don't think about traumatic events, that then sends chemicals flooding through the body, we don't overstimulate our nervous and emotional centers, then we don't feel like we're in a state of hypervigilance. Now again, I'll say to you, the intelligence of that keeping you safe, that allowing you to feel like you're surviving, should be something that we should grasp our hands and go, I found something. But it doesn't work like that, guys. It works in a way that is, as I said to you, it wants you to believe that everything's okay, and it's not. It wants you to believe that you haven't got a problem. It wants you to believe that it's got all corners covered, but it doesn't. The bravest thing I've found that anyone could ever do is strip themselves, unstitch themselves away from their addictions. The work for me goes into, if you need medical intervention, is to go and see your doctor and get medical intervention. But I think the work starts when you go and then put yourself out there as someone you've never known before. And that means the sober you. That means the person you say, I am willing to get to know who I am. I'm willing to get to know how I show up. And that's where the work really starts. Because I will assure you this, guys, for 28 days, 36 days maybe, you'll be in a place where everything you know in relationship, interpersonal relationships, are changed. The way you view your wife, the way your wife views you, the way you view your kids, the way they view you, friends, workplaces. Maybe you need to rip it all up and start again. And the temptation is, my life was easier when I was using. Because people feel let down when they relapse. They get let down because they feel let down because when they decide to stop, they have this uplift because the toxins are coming out of the body, and then they're faced with the unknown heaven. They want to go back to the known hell because they know it. The unknown heaven is full of potential. It's full of reasons to move forward in your life, but it's painful. It's painful because the first time in your life you have this moment where you have to face yourself in the most organic, authentic way. And the only way you can do that is by understanding the reasons, the passages of time that you were affected by certain moments growing up, the passages of time of how you internalized it, and the passages of time when you decided to give yourself over to a substance or a behavior. And once we can get you through them 3 phases, you come out of the other end knowing who you really are. You come out of the other end either wanting to be a force of nature in this world, creativity. You become the father that you wanted to be. You become the mother that you wanted to be. You become the brother, the sister. And you only can do that in a place that is organically meant to be you. Now, you're not to run away from that. You can survive that moment through loved ones, through friends, through coaches, through centres. But do not be drawn back into the unique bribery now of the substance that you once used. It starts off as unique intelligence, then it starts as unique tolerance, then it starts off as a unique drawing you back in. This is what you must do in order to survive. Once you get to a place where you discover who you are, what you are, where you come from, and you're allowed to lean into them places, and you're allowed to lean into who you really know you're destined to be in this life, you are able to look back at the moments that these choices, whatever it was just here to serve you and look after you. And that's why I think that this addiction you chose was here with its intelligence to help you survive. Thank you very much for listening. This is David Landers from Alcohol Free Future. I hope that makes sense, guys. Please like the page. Please just follow it. Put questions on it. Ask questions. Put posts on it. Put anything you want on it. We're trying to grow something here. It's very, very slow growing. But for me, at least when you plant something and it takes time to grow, it grows strong and it grows purposeful. Thank you very much for listening. David Landers, Alcohol Free Future. And once more, please check us out, www.shattertothelightexperience.com. Take care now.